The Quaternary period saw the extinctions of numerous predominantly larger, especially megafaunal, species, many of which occurred during the transition from the Pleistocene to the Holocene epoch. However, this extinction wave did not stop at the end of the Pleistocene, but continued, especially on isolated islands, in human-caused extinctions, although there is debate as to whether these should be considered separate events or part of the same event. Among the main causes hypothesized by paleontologists are natural climate change and overkill by humans, who appeared during the Middle Pleistocene and migrated to many regions of the world during the Late Pleistocene and Holocene. A variant of the latter possibility is the second-order predation hypothesis, which focuses more on the indirect damage caused by overcompetition with non-human predators. The spread of disease is also discussed as a possible reason. The Pleistocene or Ice Age extinction event. The Late Pleistocene extinction event saw the extinction of many mammals weighing more than 40 kg. In North America, around 45 of 61 genera of large mammals became extinct. In South America, 58 of 71. In Australia, 17 of 18. In Europe, 21 of 37. In Asia, 24 of 46. In sub-Saharan Africa, only 8 of 50. The extinctions in the Americas entailed the elimination of all the larger mammalian species of South American origin, including those that had migrated north in the Great American Interchange. Only in North America, South America, and Australia did the extinction occur at family taxonomic levels or higher. There are three main hypotheses concerning the Pleistocene extinction. The animals died off due to climate change associated with the advance and retreat of major ice caps or ice sheets. The animals were exterminated by humans. The prehistoric overkill hypothesis. The extinction of the woolly mammoth changed the extensive grasslands to birch forests, and subsequent forest fires then changed the climate. We now know that immediately after the extinction of the mammoth, the birch forests replaced the grasslands and that an era of significant fire began. There are some inconsistencies between the current available data and the prehistoric overkill hypothesis. For instance, there are ambiguities around the timing of sudden extinctions of Australian megafauna. Biologists note that comparable extinctions have not occurred in Africa and South or Southeast Asia, where the fauna evolved with hominids. Post-glacial megafaunal extinctions in Africa have been spaced over a longer interval. Evidence supporting the prehistoric overkill hypothesis includes the persistence of certain island megafauna for several millennia past the disappearance of the continental cousins. Ground sloths survived on the Antilles long after North and South American ground sloths were extinct. The later disappearance of the island species correlates with the later colonization of these islands by humans. Similarly, dwarf woolly mammoths died out on remote Wrangel Island 1,000 years after their extinction on the mainland. Steller's sea cows also persisted in seas off the isolated and uninhabited Commander Islands for thousands of years after they had vanished from the continental shores of the North Pacific. Alternative hypotheses to the theory of human responsibility include climate change associated with the last glacial period and the Younger Dryas event, as well as Tolman's hypothetical bolide, which claimed that the extinctions resulted from bolide impact. Such a scenario has been proposed as a contributing cause of the 1,300-year cold period known as the Younger Dryas stadial. This impact extinction hypothesis is still in debate due to the exacting field techniques required to extract minuscule particles of extra terrestrial impact markers such as iridium at a high resolution from very thin strata in a repeatable fashion, as is necessarily to conclusively distinguish the event peak from the local background level of the marker. The debate seems to be exacerbated by infighting between the uniformitarianism camp and the catastrophism camp. Africa and Asia. The Old World tropics have been relatively spared by Pleistocene extinctions. Africa and Southern Asia are the only regions that have terrestrial mammals weighing over 1,000 kilograms today. However, during the early, Middle and Late Pleistocene some large animal forms disappeared from these regions without being replaced by comparable successor species. Climate change has been cited as most likely causing the extinctions in Southeast Asia. Megafauna that disappeared in Africa or Asia during the Pleistocene include giraffes, Paracamelus, Camelus morelli, Sergalia, Damelops, Parmilarius, various Gazella sp, Macoponia, Dubois antelope, Duboisia santeng, Boscicuta frons, Chalacodes, a few species of warthog such as Metrodiochorus, Colpochorus, Trogontherium, Hippopotamus gorgops, Serengeti lagus, various members of Equidiequus stenonis, Eurygnatha hippushyprion, assorted members of Cervidae broad-fronted moose, Cervavitus, Eucladosaurus, Librilsis praemgacerus, various members of the order Proboscidea Dianotheria Elephas celebensis Gompotheria sp. Mammuthus sp. Mammuthus africanavis Mammuthus meridionalis Mammuthus trogona e Paleoloxodon antiquus, Tetralophodon, Steglophodon Zyglophodon, Metixetherium, running hyena, giant hyena, bear dog, giant predatory bear, Auvergne bear, dwarf panda Ailuropida wooling shanensis, Vivera leaky, Canady sp. Canis falconeri Lycon secovi Merriam's dog Xenician Lysanoids, giant cheetah, Owen's panther, saber-toothed cats Dinofelus, Hemimachaerodus homotherium, Machaerodus, Megantrion metylurus, Panthera sp. European jaguar Gombasogensis, Panthera paleosinensis Wanxian tiger Trinal tiger Nandong tiger, Panthera young Elongton tiger, Crocodilia sp. Crocodilus sp. Crocodilus anthropophagus Carligeda giant crocodile Crocodilus paleoindicus, Crocodilus thorpjanus and Euthecodon gavialis banguanicus, Rimasuchus toyota mafamia, giant ape Gigantopithecus, Theropithecus brumtiae Theropithecus oswaldi, Parapapio, Paranthropus, Australopithecus, various Homo sp. Homo augusta Homo gautengensis Homo habilis Homo heidelbergensis Homo naledi Homo rhodesiensis, Homo rudolfensis, Pelagornithidae, megafauna that disappeared in Africa and Asia during the Late Pleistocene, steppe bison, aurochs, Bos paleosundaicus, Cebu tamaraw, Leptobos sp. Nemohedus sumatransis, giant hartebeest, Orcabune, Megalovis, Hippotragus gigas, giant long-horned buffalo, various Gazella sp. Ruing oryx, Spirosaurus sp. Equus mauritanicus, Hexaprotodon, various members of Proboscidea Loxodonta atlantica, Stegodon woolly mammoth Elephas sp. Elephas hysudracus Elephas hysudrandicus Elephas maximus rubridens Paleoloxodon sp. Paleoloxodon namadicus, Paleoloxodon namani Paleoloxodon reci, Rhinocerotidae Ceratotherium mauritanicum woolly Rhinoceros elasmodiarium, Rhinoceros philippinensis A Rhinoceros sinensis, and the South Asian rhino Stephanorhinus sp. Savatherium, giant tapir, Irish elk, Cynomegasaurus, giant picker, Eurasian cave lion, Sri Lanka lion, Homotherium, cave hyena, megafaunal wolves, Beringian wolf, Canis lupus, Spelius, Paleolithic dog, various Ursus sp. Denninges bear, Etruscan bear, Pleistocene small cave bear, giant polar bear, Ailuropida baconi, wild horse, wild ranging Equus feris, Caballus, Equus hydruntinus, Equus namadicus, Equus surveillansis, Equus unanensis, Asian ostrich, Bennu heron, Hovacrex roberti, Malagasy shell goose, Hippocyderos buceroca, Voi, Aldabrachiompsis, Cylindropsis, Megaloschles, Leptoptylos robustus, Shirianetta harsegawa, Canary Islands quail, Galatea galea, Canariomes, long-legged bunting, Pongo huageri, Macaca andersoni, Macaca jiangshuanensis, and the robust macaque, Gorgopithecus. Various Homo sp. Altai, Homo erectus, Homo floresiensis, Homo neanderthalis. The Pacific. In Australia, the sudden spate of extinctions occurred earlier than in the Americas. Most evidence points to the period immediately after the first arrival of humans, thought to be a little under 50,000 years ago, but scientific argument continues as to the exact date range. In the rest of the Pacific, although in some respects far later, endemic fauna also usually perished quickly upon the arrival of humans in the Late Pleistocene and early Holocene. This section does not include any spate of extinctions post-1000 BCE. The extinctions in the Pacific included various members of Diprotodontidae, Diprotodon sp. Hylitherium Tomazettimaeocopia runaldi, Nototherium sp. Zygomaturus sp. Various members of Macropodidae, Macropus sp. Procoptodon sp. Propleopus oscillans, Protemnodon sp. Simosthenurus sp. Stenurus sp. Phascolonus sp. Palorcestes azul, Zaglossus hakati, Phascoloctos sturtoni, Megalobguilia, Winambi, Thylacleocarnifex, Thylacinus cynocephalus, Sarcophilus laniarius, Sarcophilus mornensis, Varanus priscus, Crocodilia sp. Iconogavialis mecosucos sp. Palumnicus sp. Quincana sp. Volia mealania ninjamis, giant iguana, Genornis newtoni, powerful goshawk and the glacial goshawk, Sylviornis, noble megapode, New Caledonian gallinule, giant megapodes, giant malleefowl, pilebuilder megapode, consumed scruff owl, Viti levu scruff owl, New Caledonian ground dove, New Caledonian snipe, Viti levu snipe, Niue night heron, Marques's cuckoo dove, New Caledonian barn owl, various Gallerellus sp. Cowrie mole duck, Apterebes, lowland cagoo, Viti levu giant pigeon, American flamingo. Some extinct megafauna, such as the bunyip-like Diprotodon, may remain in folk memory or be the sources of cryptozoological legends. Europe and northern Eurasia, woolly mammoth, dwarf mammoth, Cretan dwarf mammoth, dwarf Sardinian mammoth, straight-tusked elephant, dwarf elephant, Paleoloxodon chaniensis, Paleoloxodon cyprioides, Paleoloxodon falconeri, Paleoloxodon nadriensis, woolly rhinoceros, Stephanorhinus sp. Elasmotherium, Irish elk, Praemgacerus, broad-fronted moose, Cretan dwarf megasaurine, steppe bison, wild horse, Leptobos sp. Spiraceros quiectensis, Gazella sp. Camelus noblochi and other Camelus sp. Balearic Islands cave goat, Balearic giant dormouse, Lethia sp. Hippopotamus sp. European hippopotamus, Maltese dwarf hippopotamus, Cyprus dwarf hippopotamus, Sicilian dwarf hippopotamus, robust Pleistocene European otter, Pleistocene Mediterranean otter, Sardinian giant otter, Sardinian dwarf otter, European Ice Age leopard, Sardinian dhole, European dhole, scimitar cat, Lynx asiodorensis, Mediterranean cave lynx, cave lion, cave hyena, various Ursus sp, Etruscan bear, Denninger's bear, Gamsultan cave bear, Pleistocene small cave bear, giant polar bear, Asian ostrich, giant swan, Cretan owl, Jacution goose, Pleistocene European cranes, Neanderthals, survived until about 24,000 years ago in the Iberian Peninsula. Denisovians. Many extant species today were present in areas either far to the south or west to the current locations today. For example, the Arctic fauna on this list all inhabited regions as south as Iberia. Species extirpated from portions of or all former ranges in Eurasia during the Quaternary extinction event include European lion, fallow deer, wild water buffalo, onager, saiga antelope, polar bear, Arctic fox, dhole, grey wolf, mouflon, northern bald ibis, muskox, aurochs, hippopotamus, wolverine, Persian leopard, tarpan, Barbary monkey, reindeer, Eurasian and Iberian lynx, chamois, North America and the Caribbean. See also, list of North American animals extinct in the Holocene during the last 60,000 years, including the end of the last glacial period. Approximately 51 genera of large mammals have become extinct in North America. Of these, many genera extinctions can be reliably attributed to a brief interval of 11,500 to 10,000 radiocarbon years before present, shortly following the arrival of the Clovis people in North America. Most other extinctions are poorly constrained in time, though some definitely occurred outside of this narrow interval. In contrast, only about half a dozen small mammals disappeared during this time. Previous North American extinction pulses had occurred at the end of glaciations, but not with such an ecological imbalance between large mammals and small ones. The megafaunal extinctions include 41 genera of herbivores and 20 carnivores. North American extinctions included all forms of American wild horse, Equus Alaska, Equus cedralensis, Mexican horse, Equus complicatus, stilt-legged horse, tarpan, Equus fraternus, Equus giganteus, Yukon wild ass, Equus mexicanus, Pacific horse, Western horse, Equus semiplicatus, Hagerman horse, Scots horse. All members of North American tapir, California tapir, Cope's tapir, Merriam's tapir, Vero tapir. Various members of Camelidae, Western camel, stilt-legged llama, stout-legged llama. 3 of the last 4 Antilochopridae genera only pronghorns survived: Capromeryx, stock osiris, Tetrameryx, American mountain deer, stag moose, shrub ox and Harlan's muskox, Harrington's mountain goat, bison, ancient bison, longhorned giant bison, steppe bison, Bison occidentalis, giant beaver, Aztlanalagus sp, saiga, giant tortoise, Teratornilornis incredibilis, Cathartornis gracilis, Oscaravis olsoni, Teratonus mariami, Teratonus woodburnensis, Woodward's eagle, megafaunal Californian condor, Cuban condor, Brayphips sp, Neogyps sp, Puerto Rican crow, copes and minute flamingos, Jamaican ibis, Caracara sp, Milvago sp, Cuban giant owl, Neophrontops sp, Daggett's eagle, Buteogallus fragilis, Buteogallus borazi, Lebrea asphalt stork, Brer owl, Pleistocene black vulture, Titanohyrax, Californian flightless sea duck, Dow's puffin, Bermuda flicker, Nesitrochus sp, Barbados rail, Cuban flightless crane, Lebrea crane, Bermuda flightless duck, St. Croix macaw, turkeys, saber-toothed salmon, pristine mustached bat pristinus, Antilles monkey, Steller's sea cow, Neocorus, giant fuchsia, giant picker, Eremotherium, a megatheriid ground sloths, Nothrotheriops and Nothrotherium, Nothrotheriid ground sloths, Megalonyx, a megalonyca ground sloth, Paramylodon and Glossotherium, Mylodontid ground sloths, Greater Antillean dwarf ground sloth, Sacratosnus habenosnus, Megalignus, Megalonyx, Meonus, Neocnus, various members of Glyptodontidae, Glyptotherium, Dodecurus, Pachyarmatherium, beautiful armadillo, Pampathes, Mixotoxodon, short-faced skunk, short-faced bear, Florida cave bear, giant polar bear, Homotherium, saber-toothed cat, American cheetah, American lion, Eurasian cave lion, Siberian tiger, Pleistocene North American and South American jaguars, cougar, jaguarundi, margay, ocelot, dole, various canis sp, direwolf, Pleistocene coyote, megafaunal wolf, Gomphotheriidae sp, Cuvironeus stegomastodon, mammoth, Columbian mammoth, pygmy mammoth, woolly mammoth, American mastodon, flat-headed and long-nosed peccaries, collared peccary. The survivors are in some ways as significant as the losses: bison, gray wolf, lynx, grizzly bear, American black bear, deer, Odocoileus sp, pronghorn, white-lipped peccary, muskox, bighorn sheep, and mountain goat. The list of survivors also includes species which were extirpated during the Quaternary extinction event, but recolonized at least part of the ranges during the Mid-Holocene from South American relict populations, such as the cougar, jaguar, collared peccary, ocelot, margay, and jaguarundi. All save the pronghorns descended from Asian ancestors that had evolved with human predators. Pronghorns are the second fastest land mammal, which may have helped them elude hunters. More difficult to explain in the context of overkill is the survival of bison, since these animals first appeared in North America less than 240,000 years ago and were geographically removed from human predators for a sizable period of time. Because ancient bison evolved into living bison, there was no continent-wide extinction of bison at the end of the Pleistocene. The survival of bison into the Holocene and recent times is therefore inconsistent with the overkill scenario. By the end of the Pleistocene, when humans first entered North America, these large animals had been geographically separated from human hunters for more than 200,000 years. Given this enormous span of geologic time, bison would almost certainly have been very nearly as naive as native North American large mammals. The culture that has been connected with the wave of extinctions in North America is the Paleo-Indian culture associated with the Clovis people, who were thought to use spear throwers to kill large animals. The chief criticism of the prehistoric overkill hypothesis has been that the human population at the time was too small and, or not sufficiently, widespread geographically to have been capable of such ecologically significant impacts. This criticism does not mean that climate change scenarios explaining the extinction are automatically to be preferred by default. However, any more than weaknesses in climate change arguments can be taken as supporting overkill. Some form of a combination of both factors could be plausible, and overkill would be a lot easier to achieve large-scale extinction with an already dying population due to climate change. Lack of tameable megafauna was perhaps one of the reasons why Amerindian civilizations evolved differently from Old World ones. Critics have disputed this by arguing that llamas, alpacas, and bison were domesticated. South America. See also, List of South American animals extinct in the Holocene. South America had been isolated, an island continent, for many millions of years, and it had a wide range of fauna found nowhere else, though many of them became extinct during the Great American Interchange about 3 million years ago, such as the Phoracidae and Saparasodonta families. Those that survived the interchange included the ground sloths, glyptodons, pampathes, and note ungulates. All managed to extend the range to North America. In the Pleistocene, South America remained largely unglaciated except for increased mountain glaciation in the Andes, with the megafauna were marginally affected. At the start of the Holocene, all the preeminent genera of megafauna became extinct. The smaller relatives remain, including anteaters, tree sloths, armadillos, New World marsupials, opossums, shrew possums, and the Monito del Monte. Today the largest land mammals remaining in South America are the wild camels of the Laminae group, such as the guanacos and vicunas, and the tapirus genus, of which Baird's tapir can reach up to 400 kg. Other notable surviving large fauna are peccaries, marsh deer, spectacled bears, maned wolves, pumas, ocelots, jaguars, rays, emerald tree boas, boa constrictors, anacondas, American crocodiles, caimans, and giant rodents such as capybaras. Smilodon fatalis. A Smilodon populator, Panthera onca augusta. A Panthera onca mesembrina, Arctotherium, Desmodus draculae, Canis dirus, Canis naringi, Theriodictus, Protasian, Jusikian avis. A Jusikian cultridens, Sparthos perseverus, Pachyalmatherium, Daspis bellus, Antifa, Agalmaceris, Comelidae ulimaups, Hemiocenia paleolama, ground sloths, Mylodontidae catonix, Glossotherium, Lestodon, Mylodon, Nematherium, Octomylodon, Aurophodon, Celidotherium, Megatheridae, Aramaltherium, Megatherium, Nothrotheridae, Nothropus, Nothrotherium, Megalonychidae, Proplagiathras, Valgipes Gervaise, Valgipes bucklandi, Glyptodontidae dodecurus, Eleutherocercus, Glyptodon, Heteroglyptodon, Hoplophrus, Lomaphrus, Neosclerocalyptus, Neuriurus, Panocthus, Parapanocthus, Plaxoplis sclerocalyptus, Pampathes, Utatus, Properopus, Neocorus, Equidaequus, Hippidium onohippidium, Toxodon, Mixotoxodon, Leptoptena macrocenia, Proterotheridae Zenrhinotherium, Gomphotheridae cavironius, Haplomastodon Stegomastodon, Agetotheridae, Mesotheridae, Milvago broadcorby, Cayman venezuelensis. Later extinctions. There is no general agreement on where the Holocene, or anthropogenic, extinction begins, and the Quaternary extinction event, which includes climate change resulting in the end of the last ice age, ends, or if they should be considered separate events at all. Some have suggested that anthropogenic extinctions may have begun as early as when the first modern humans spread out of Africa between 100,000 and 200,000 years ago, which is supported by rapid megafaunal extinction following recent human colonization in Australia, New Zealand and Madagascar, in a similar way that any large, adaptable predator moving into a new ecosystem would. In many cases, it is suggested even minimal hunting pressure was enough to wipe out large fauna, particularly on geographically isolated islands. Only during the most recent parts of the extinction have plants also suffered large losses. Overall, the Holocene extinction can be characterized by the human impact on the environment. The Holocene extinction continues into the 21st century, with overfishing, ocean acidification and the amphibian crisis being a few broader examples of an almost universal, cosmopolitan decline of biodiversity.